Hello and welcome to Breaking Paranormal News, the Utah Monolith. What was it? As you know, I've been wanting to return to older series that have been collecting cobwebs, and so far, it has been going well. In an odd twist, fate stepped in and allowed me to continue this plan by having something pop up, which would fit in with our Breaking Paranormal News series. For those who are new to the channel, I have Breaking Paranormal News and Breaking Cryptid News, which are videos that talk about recent odd sightings or cryptids respectively. We normally talk about older sightings throughout the year, but when new ones emerge, those series are devoted to that. Over the past few days, I've received many phone calls and messages relating to the monolith that was found in Utah. So it was then that I decided to make a video about that object. I wished I could have uploaded something sooner, but as luck would have it, waiting until when I normally make videos worked out, since there have been more developments in the story. So today, we are going to look at the story of this structure and try to uncover the truth behind it. On November 18th, while out on a mission to survey bighorn sheep in Utah, a group of biologists from the Utah Division of Wildlife Research were flying over the landscape in a helicopter. It was at this moment that one of the team noticed an odd-looking structure standing in a ravine. With much curiosity, they landed and discovered that there was a metallic triangular pole standing out of the rock floor. This discovery led to many questions, since no one could figure out who built it or why it was even placed in such a remote location. According to reports, the pillar was anywhere between 9.5 feet to 12 feet tall. Each side of the triangle consisted of shiny metallic plates that were 23 inches wide and appeared to be made of either stainless steel or aluminum. One of the investigators mentioned that it was odd that the angle of the structure seemed to point towards a crevice in the rock wall. With this discovery, the Utah Department of Public Safety, DPS for short, published photos of the now dubbed Utah Monolith on their Instagram on November 20th. Then, only 3 days later, they released a video showing the initial discovery of the structure. Even though this became quite a popular topic, the DPS refused to reveal its location, claiming that they feared people would become lost trying to find it, and they didn't want to have to continually be sent out on searches for missing people. This hope was a little naive with today's world, since it only took people less than 48 hours to figure out where the structure stood. With this emerged many photos and videos from content creators on various social media platforms, all posting their visits to the monolith. With each upload, people kept the mystery going by refusing to publicize the structure's exact location. It would then finally be revealed that it was located in San Juan County in the Lockhart Basin. Much of this information was found by utilizing Google Maps and other resources. What is really interesting is that with research came the discovery that this monolith wasn't something that was just placed there. From what anyone can tell, this pillar was erected sometime between July 7th and October 21st of 2016. I keep using past tense words here due to the last part of the story. It has been confirmed that on November 28th, the monolith vanished just as mysteriously as it had appeared. The only thing that remained was the top of the pillar and a group of stones piled up behind it. So here are some interesting bits of information. The pillar appeared to have been set down in the rock bed by someone physically cutting into the stone. This was then followed with reports that it seemed that a type of epoxy was used to fill in around the base of the structure. Those who visited the site claimed that the pillar seemed to be hollow, while others claimed that they thought there was some type of insulation or fill inside. Many thought that it was constructed out of 1/8-inch stainless steel or aluminum due to it not being magnetic. After doing some math, if the pillar was made of stainless steel and was hollow, then the entire structure weighed around 300 pounds. If it was made of aluminum, then it would still be around 100 pounds. It should be noted that due to not knowing what it was constructed of, it could change those numbers. There are various types of stainless steel and aluminum that all have different weight. So with all that said, let's look at a few of the possible explanations as to what this object could have possibly been. This particular subject was what most of my conversations turned to this week. Let's go with the ideas that are more in line with what this channel is about. The first of which would be aliens. Some have hypothesized that extraterrestrials constructed a pillar and placed it in the desert as some sort of sign or as something more meaningful to them. While I obviously love this idea and wish it were true, I find a lot of things about it being wrong. If this was placed there by some advanced race with the intent of humans finding it, then they did a poor job, since it apparently showed up late 2016 and we are only now finding it in late 2020. That doesn't exclude the idea that it could be for their purposes only. In fact, I had many conversations, eventually wandering into the topic of it being placed there by the subterranean beings known as reptilians. With those type of beings frequently being spotted in the desert areas, this is plausible. Again, I love it, but things don't add up. If you look at the structure, it is quite clear that the plates are held together using pop rivets. I mentioned this fact in a recent Facebook post, and my naturally skeptic brother even commented saying that, am I saying aliens couldn't use pop rivets? No, they very easily could, but I would assume that life forms that are intelligent enough to travel across the galaxy probably would utilize a better form of holding plates together. Not to mention that on close-ups, you can see that the plates aren't matching up perfectly. If we know anything about UFO sightings, their craft are commonly described as seamless. This is only an assumption here, but I would think that if an alien race would want to show us something that they made, they would create it perfectly. If it was a structure only for them, then I would dare argue that it would be important enough to care about the details. Now, reptilians could utilize pop rivets, but only facts hurt that theory. If you look at the initial discovery video, you can tell that human feet were packing down dirt around the base of the tower. I understand reptilians are claimed to be shapeshifters, but why would they keep that form if they are in a location that is so far away from civilization? Okay, so it wasn't aliens. Then what else? After thinking about it, I considered the fact that it could have been placed there as a totem for some type of ritual. The remoteness of the area and the fact that the pillar is placed in a location that would work well for a form of amphitheater seems to fit. I really don't have any cons to bring to this idea, since the information we have doesn't discredit it. This works even when you think that it has been there for 4 years, and not until it became world news did it vanish. The most common belief is that it is some type of art or even possibly viral marketing. This latter idea doesn't seem wise, since it was quite an investment and with the hopes of drumming up business, and then to find it was only discovered 4 years later. If the company did build it to bring interest to their brand, then it is likely that due to the time span, they are no longer open. This has opened up the possibility of it simply being art. This is the most likely of theories out there. Many have mentioned that it could have been the work of an artist by the name of John McCracken. I wasn't aware of this man before this, but in looking at his work, he did have a lot of love for building structures like what we saw in Utah. However, there are 2 major problems with this theory. First, I was unable to see any images of his work that included the use of rivets. If anything, he built pillars that would resemble what I would assume aliens would build. This makes sense though, since John was highly interested in extraterrestrials. In reading about him, it sounds like we could have had some interesting conversations. Which brings us to the second problem of this theory. John passed away on April 8th of 2011 in New York. This was about 5 years before this monolith even showed up. It is possible that a protege of his could have built it in honor of him. But, if so, you would think it would have been constructed on a date that meant something to John's life. I have perused a lot of significant dates in his life and career, and can't seem to pinpoint one that would stand out for the period of time that this structure was built. It is possible that the date is something important to the artists themselves, or maybe not. I do find it odd that if this was art, that it was constructed of fairly expensive materials and placed in a location that went unnoticed for over 4 years. I know this type of practice is frequently done, but it baffles me why a person would go to all the work of doing this, not knowing if it'd ever be found. The thing is that we will likely never know the answer to this question, since the monolith was constructed on private property, and as such is a criminal offense seen under the same light of graffiti. Let's take a moment and discuss the mysterious circumstances behind the object's disappearance. A lot of people play this event off as something spooky or otherworldly, but the truth is more mundane. While it was widely reported that the monolith vanished on November 28th, what wasn't frequently mentioned was that there isn't that big of a mystery involved. At first, I would have assumed the Parks Department did it, but they claimed otherwise. Of course, I wouldn't trust that. Yet, on the night of November 27th, two hikers named Ricardo Marino and Sierra Van Meter were in the area around midnight and claimed they saw a truck leaving the site with what appeared to be a metal object in the bed. In a strange twist, the Bureau of Land Management released a statement saying that an unknown party removed the structure. What makes this odd is that while the pillar was seen as graffiti, being that it was placed in private property, it now was considered private property of the Bureau of Land Management. So in a sense, while they weren't happy the monolith was placed there, they were also claiming it as their property. With all that said, I do want to wrap this story up with a few issues I have with this monolith. Call them my personal observations if you will. In reading the story, I was disheartened to find that some people who visited the structure weren't satisfied with just seeing this oddity there. Apparently, some had the nerve to remove at least two of the rivets just to peer inside of it. In a way, these people felt the need to destroy the structure for their own amusement. It makes me sad that some people couldn't enjoy just seeing something odd and would rather ruin it for everyone else. I assume the same could be said for the artist who cut the natural stone and removed the shrubs to erect the monolith in the first place. The final thing was my frustration with how the media and even wildlife researchers handled this object. Every news site that talked about this had a reporter on stage chuckling every time he mentioned people thought it was made by aliens. This was from the first presentation of the story, where no information was known. We didn't know where it came from, but the reporters couldn't fathom a metal object appearing in the remote desert as anything extraterrestrial. I agree that it more than likely isn't, but to rule it out entirely seems biased. Even in the video produced by the wildlife researchers, you can hear them laughing and joking about this object being alien.
Okay, the intrepid explorers go down to investigate the alien life form. Okay, who does this kind of stuff? Yeah.
This is where I think back to my video on evidence, what does it take? I have no problem with people who are like most of us, where we're realistic on topics, but keep the idea of paranormal explanations open. I was taught a very long time ago to never say never in life, because you don't know what the future holds. Whereas these hard and fast skeptics are so rooted in their beliefs that they refuse to even think about something paranormal, even if their facts don't fit. I swear, some could see the alien ship placing this pillar in the desert, and they still would say it had a natural explanation. As a reverse, I am open with my thoughts on if I feel a cryptid exists, but I won't say that they can't exist, since there is always that possibility that they do. Okay, rant over. As I end this, I hope you enjoyed learning the full story about this object. I'm really interested in hearing what your thoughts are, and if you found something that I didn't. Please keep voting for the states you want to see covered next in our Cryptid by State series. As mentioned last week, we will be visiting Colorado next week. I rarely give details on how the list is moving, since I like to keep things organic. But, just so you know, Tennessee is in first place with a decent lead, and Rhode Island, South Carolina, and Nebraska are tied at the bottom of the pack, currently. Most all states only differ by one, so your votes can and have made differences in the past. As a quick reminder, in last week's video, I mentioned that I was planning on making a video in late December in the #AskBen series. Due to the recent holiday, I didn't get a chance to reply to a lot of the comments this week, but I did see that a few of you did ask a question for that. So, I wanted to remind you all that you can still put in your questions for that video. Simply make a comment with #AskBen in it with your burning questions about the paranormal or really anything else. I will then compile them and respond to as many as possible in the video that I make probably on December 21st. If you haven't yet done so, do please consider subscribing to my channel for more content like this. Also, it would be greatly appreciated if you share my videos with someone you know who may be interested in this type of genre. With that, be safe, and I'll see you in the next one. Later.